Greetings everyone, Slurgical here and welcome to part 1 of 3. The way this is going to be working is that I'm designing the terrain and he will be painting the terrain. For part 1 I will be designing a tree trunk and the leaves that goes with it, and it's for an alien setting, so it's not likely going to be something you've seen outside when you go outside. So I'm just tracing the spine of the tree trunk. Now that the spine is done, I'm going to be working on the width of the tree trunk. So for that, I'll be doing a circle and I'll be trying different sizes to see which works best visually with the shape of the spine. Once I find the size I want, the width, I'm just going to select the tracing of that circle around the spine. The first trunk being finished, I will just rotate around and make sure that I'm happy with the result. And to be honest, you don't always get it the first time. You have to play around with that. One thing I'm trying in my design is not to leave really sharp edges because it's plastic and it's really sharp. You can actually cut yourself like a paper cut, but instead it's a 3D printed plastic cut. One thing I like to do is that I delete the sketch plane that I designed because I want a variety, and it's so easy to get a bit lazy every now and then. Maybe not so lazy, but it's kind of convenient. So that's why I usually delete those things. To make the alien tree more interesting, I'm going to be adding more trunks to it and then have them all wrapping around each other. Like previously, I'm playing around with the spine. Once the spine is decided the way it's going to be, I'm going to look a little bit around and see, and I'm going to zoom at the start of the spine and start sizing the trunk. Like I said, this is going to be larger because it's going to be the base of the supporting trunk. That other one is a bit of a freshly new growth. It's really fun doing all this. I really enjoy it. There's so much stuff you can do. It's just mind-blowing. The limit is your mind and imagination. You know, the crazy thing is sometimes real nature and rock formation are really alien. That really hit me when I was creating some terrain and I realized, this is so out of this world. It seems to be a little bit too much. So what I did is that I went online and I decided to look around photos of nature done for plants and rocks and mountains. And reality was more alien than the stuff I was creating. So that was a bit funny. While I was just rambling on, you may have noticed that I had a couple of fails because the curvature of my spine was a bit too strong for the width of the tree trunk I was making. And there are two ways to do that. One way is to select the curvature itself, like I'm going to be selecting now, and I can adjust all those settings to smoothen or stretch the bends. But I didn't feel like doing that, so I'm just going to retrace an entire new spine. And the more spine and the more time that you do some tracing, you can find a shape that's better suited or more pleasant to see right from the get-go. And that's what I'm going for. Once that I am happy with that shape, I run the entire tree trunk, just like that. Although all those steps are really fun for me and they're probably a bit boring for you, this is the fun part and the interesting part. Finally shaping the tree. So I take the original trunk that I used, the small one, and I just wrap it around, move it around, rotate, change its position, its direction until I find one location that suits the need or the visual look that I'm going for. I want to have the tree leaves to go to opposite direction from the base. Copy the original large size of the trunk because the shape feels to flow better with that tree. I could have designed an entirely new one, but instead I used that and I rotated from the all the way around like this, so it does really look like a different piece. But at the same time, the similarity of it makes it visually work better together. I tried that with other trees, making them all complicated, and it seems that taking two of the largest elements of a tree and copying them, but just moving them around, makes it more coherent. But maybe that's just me, I don't know. Now that some of the stuff is sticking out, I just arrange it around, so it has a smoother transition without those blocky ends that would make no sense. And I'm just softening the sides again because I don't want sharp corners. And visually it will be easier. You'll see later on why. It also gives it a more natural look for something completely alien and that doesn't exist anywhere in the world. I'm spinning things around here so we can see if there's anything that stands out that bothers visually. And if there's nothing that bothers you visually while you're designing something, then you move to the next step. And the next step in this design is going to be adding visual elements that are interesting. I'm going to be making spheres, and those spheres I'm going to be attaching them randomly throughout the trunk. To make a sphere, I split the circle that I made, select it, and revolve it around that axis. And voila, you have a sphere, and you're ready to go on to the next step. Select that sphere, move it down onto the trunk, select the spot where you want it. Now you're happy with that, you just maybe make some adjustment just like that, and then you duplicate it and you move it out like that, and you just find another spot for it. And you continue the same process over and over until you're satisfied with the amount of spheres you have across the entire object. You select the remove tool, you select the trunk, then you select the spheres. You hit OK, and it looks like nothing happens. You select and delete all the spheres, and magically they're all gone. And your tree trunk it's all pitted as you intended it to be. The next step is to make the nodules sticking out. You take the same sphere, you reduce it 50%, and then you start placing it on the space in between where all those pits are. As you notice, it's exactly the same thing I did earlier, but with a small difference. Those pits, those nodules, they need to be closer to the trunk, because if you stick them too much out, part of the sphere is dangling like this outside, and it start to be printing in the air, and that's not what you want, because your print will fail or it's going to be pretty ugly. This one is the perfect example for it. You see the lower part is not connected to the tree trunk. Now it is. Once it's all done and fixed, just for fun, select all those nodules, change their colors. Select the trunk, change the color of the trunk. Select individually every single one of the pits. Since now they're part of the trunk, so they cannot be selected as an object globally. That will definitely take a couple of minutes to do. In this case, I'm going to select them to paint in yellow. Once all that is done, I start to clean up my items, the naming convention. So I'm going to put a definitive name for that tree trunk, a number to select which version of that tree it is, and then what that object is from the whole file. So in this case it's the trunk, and then from what planet or subject it's being done. In this case it's Uthika, the planet where my game is taking place. Now I'm moving on to the next step of the project, doing the leaves. Since I want the leaves to be a bit floppy, I will be printing them in a 0.2 millimeter thickness. But by 0.2 millimeter thickness, it's harder to glue that or to connect that to the tree trunk. So what I'm going to be doing is like a rib or a subframe for it for support. It's a long process, so I won't be showing you how I'm doing it. But basically I do the rib and the leaves. I make about 20 of them. The stem part is an octagon, so it's easier to connect, just like you're going to see now. So I made those octagon hole to the tree trunk. And because it's octagon, when you put the leaf in, you can insert it and you can rotate it in different directions, so better suit the look you want to have. And if you want to use the same tree trunk, you can, by rotating the leaves around, it will give a different look, makes like a different tree while it's still the same tree trunk. The leaves in there, and it works great. So now I'm just moving them up, and all those little red octagons, I'm gonna do a cut from the main object and do exactly the same thing I did with the spheres earlier. Select the object, select the items, and then cut from object, then delete. For the sake of the video, I'm just using one leaf. I initially did 20 of them just to have a variety. And you sometimes get some messages error messages with the CAD because the shape doesn't necessarily fit due to the pits, the yellow pits. So in that case, I just select another surface to match to the closest one that would work. There's always a workaround, no matter what. Sometimes you just have to be creative with it. Now my part 1 is all done, and we have to wait until Mellow Miniatures is all ready to show his video. I'm really looking forward to that because he has a lot more experience than I have with painting miniature and wargaming in general. I will have a link below for his channel. Please go and visit his channel, and I'm really looking forward as well to continue this collaboration. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about all of this. Part 2 is going to be about terrain. Thank you again, and Slurgical out.